I can't hear you guys. I think it's because you're on mute, right?
I will start
Yes.
the program now.
Yeah.
No.
Maybe
There we
start
go.
Michelle,
Hi.
it's Alicia here.
Hi, Alicia.
Hi. I just thought before we begin, I just wanted to know, how do I pronounce your surname?
It's Gear, like Richard Gere.
Like Gia. Okay, perfect.
Easy
Thank
peasy.
you so much.
Yeah, a lot of
Thank
Afrikaans people say Gere, but you can say Gear.
Yeah, someone in the office just told me exactly that. So I thought, let me just ask before.
No, you can
you.
just say Gear. It's much easier.
Sure. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sure.
Share, you may start the webinar in a second. Please, when a speaker is about to speak, you welcome to show your video. If you're not speaking, please switch it off.
I have a question. How interactive is the session?
Can you please speak on WhatsApp now?
Right, got it.
Sure.
Good morning and welcome. Thank you to each and every one of you for joining us this morning for this webinar. We do appreciate your time. I am Alicia Logan. I head up the membership department at Proudly South African. It gives me great pleasure to be your host for the next 2 hours. For this morning, we are joined by 4 industry experts that will talk us through all things technology. We also have Proudly South African CEO who will come through and help us understand tech better and bring everything to round up everything, so to speak. Before I get into the running order, I thought that if you are joining us from social media and you're not on the call today, then you can join the following: buy local to create jobs, hashtag buy local to create jobs, and hashtag tech webinar. Just before I get into our first speaker, I thought it would be so important for me to speak to one of my recent experiences. I think whenever we are, hosting webinars, we sort of look at the topic, research it, and then come through and provide more detail on it. But this specific one, in terms of technology, I had a recent experience that I think is so important for me to share with everyone on the call today. So recently I met with a luxury skincare manufacturer. Very important for me to note that the luxury skincare manufacturer and the body care products are proudly South African, manufactured here in South Africa. I think it is so important for us to condition our minds to acknowledge that South Africa has some of the most premium and the most luxury skincare brands and fashion brands as well. And that when we speak luxury and when we speak premium, we must not only think of products that are, from abroad. South Africa is equipped and has the most beautiful luxury skincare and fashion brands the world over. So it was an amazing meeting whereby, I met with one of the, as I said, luxury skincare brands, and the owner and I had a discussion about membership and the associated benefits. But what was so interesting about the meeting, and it, ties back so beautifully with this webinar today, is that this specific business, the owner said to me, I was really battling. I really did not want to open myself up to technology. And the fear of not wanting to open myself up to technology was because, as a premium brand, I was continuously invested on the customer experience. When my customers walk through the door, they are greeted by a signature scent that is mine, that is my brand's. And when they come in, their skin is analyzed by an industry expert, someone that we've trained for many, many, many months and who has all of the academic qualification behind him or her. So, and when they leave with the most beautiful packaged product, and it is handed over to them in the most, glorious manner. So, my fear of going online and using technology was that I would lose the traditional experience that made my brand stand out in a manner that is luxurious and in a manner that resonates with my consumer. So I said to her, so what did you do? She said, after a lot of debate internally, I succumbed and I opened up an e-commerce store with the hope that, maybe a business person, whether male or female, may just want to buy a product. If they're going on business, they just want to buy it and go and not be able to come to the store. So I did. I opened up the e-commerce store. And she said to me, they're not yet on 2 years of having the e-commerce store, and the e-commerce store and the actual physical store have now met each other in revenue. And this is something she would have never anticipated. So the main reason she didn't want to use technology for the business is because, in her own words, I do not want to divorce my customer from their experience. But now that she's opened up the e-commerce store and it is doing as well financially as the standalone store, she's said to me she can only confirm that we need to acknowledge that we are living in a digital age whereby people do not want to have the experience. They do want to have the personalized customer experience, but we need to still be cognizant of the fact that people are business people. People travel all the time. People have families. So as much as they do not want to divorce themselves from the actual customer, traditional customer experience, technology does assist them when they are on the move all the time to still be able to purchase their favorite product. So it has worked extremely well for her brand. And then she said, I thought about it. If e-commerce worked so well for my brand, what about my back office? What about my production facility? What about my, front of house, my point of payment system? Maybe I should also enhance that. And so she added a new point of purchase system that offers her such a detailed transactional report that she is now able to see what products are running off the shelf, so to speak, and what products are sitting there for months on end and expiring without being purchased. So here again, she says to me, I've now enhanced the production side of my business, whereby I know what to manufacture and I know what not to manufacture. So I'm investing back into the business, but this time wisely, not blindly. And so we went on to also speak about some things, as silly as camera systems in the store. She says, previously, I needed to go in to see what was going on. Now I know what's going on in my reception area, in my sales area, in my production area, just by looking on my phone. So just given this experience, where I've been, I'm onboarding this company as a proudly South African member company, and just the understanding of where they were and the fact that they have not divorced themselves from their traditional customer experience. They've only enhanced it with technology, whereby the experience is still there, the fragrance smell is still there, the packaging is still there, all of the traditional methods are still there. All they've done is use technology to enhance efficiency, productivity, and they now remain competitive because they acknowledge what products are moving, what are not moving, and how to best allocate funds to production of SKUs. So I think that was such an important, message for me to get through to our audience this morning. In that, the way in which a waiter pours wine into a glass is art. It's so artistic. It's not clumsy. It's done so beautifully. We never have to walk away from artistic ways of customer service. Technology is not removing us from that. We need to acknowledge that technology is just enhancing what is traditionally already excellent customer service. So that experience for me has made me realize, especially for this webinar, that technology and technological trends must not be seen as something ice cold and and something that removes us from that close affinity that we have with our customers and, in our case, our members. It actually brings us closer by allowing us to understand more intimately how we can best serve our target audience or our customers, if that may. So before I get into more and more of my member company stories, I thought I could introduce our first speaker. Our first speaker is TJ Zwane, who is from Microsoft South Africa, who serves as a partner solutions sales manager. And TJ is going to talk to us about harnessing the latest AI trends. I think there is nobody that hasn't heard of AI, but getting into the understanding of what it truly is, TJ is going to take us through that. And of course, TJ is going to speak us through empowering tech startups with Microsoft technology and programs. TJ, can I hand over to you?
Thank you so much. Alicia, can you hear me?
Yes, you are loud and clear.
Thank you so much. All right. Yes, thank you so much for the warm welcome and the warm introduction. I'm just going to share my screen shortly. Okay. Okay. Just tell me when you can see it, okay? Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. As Alicia mentioned, I am a partner solution sales manager. And essentially my role, the main aim is to work with tech startups to grow them across the ecosystem, help them get customers, help them utilize Microsoft's technologies and create a proper go-to-market strategy. So again, in looking at some of the trends that are available in the market, right? And I want to start with a starting point. Our CEO, Satya Nadella, says that AI is at the beginning of the S-curve, and the near-term and long-term opportunities are enormous. What that means is that we just really just starting out with AI. A lot of people still don't understand A lot of companies are still trying to figure out where AI fits in. A lot of small businesses, tech businesses, are also trying to see how they can infuse their solutions into AI, which comes to what our EVP for Microsoft Cloud and AI, Scott Guthrie says. It says every app will be reinvented with AI, and you're starting to see it a lot. New apps will be built that weren't possible before, right? So if you look at the solutions that you use on a daily basis, things like WhatsApp, you'll start seeing that there's Meta AI in there. And this is starting to help you have conversations, look for searches, and look at how you can actually access the power of AI in your own personal life as your own personal assistant, because I mean, everybody wants to have a personal assistant. Now, again, speaking about the trends, because the starting point of my chat is really around what are the trends that we're seeing? And this thing we're seeing the most is that we are starting to see that a lot of the big companies are looking at the contribution of AI to the global economy over the next years. And it is already estimated that about 15.7 trillion dollars, sorry, will be contributed by AI to the global economy. I mean, as you can see, there's a lot of insights that we have gotten from Forbes, from Goldman Sachs, that show that there is going to be a general growth in AI because all the AI technology that we're looking at is going to impact everyday lives in terms of business, in terms of personal, and essentially we are currently investing a lot in the AI, and we've got solutions like Copilot. If you look at Copilot, you use Microsoft Office, Teams, etc. You will see Copilot as a tool that is utilizing generative AI to drive narratives, to help you be more productive, to help you be more professional in your email sending, things like that. So we know that as AI grows, the investment in AI will grow. It's similar to how when tech started, when you looked at cloud, when cloud started. When cloud started, we realized that the possibility of remote work, as Alicia mentioned, I mean, small businesses are starting to see how they can be more mobile. They're starting to see how they can actually, access customers where they're not, so they don't have to be physically there. So a growth in e-commerce, for instance, was part of what we saw as part of the growth with cloud. And now with AI, we're seeing a similar thing. And we're starting to see a lot of VCs, and those are venture capitalists, really willing to invest in early stage startups because the tech moves so quickly and grows so quickly that it's easier to capture that investment very early, right? And we see that the market is volatile in terms of tech industry when it comes to VCs, but it's very strong in the AI space, right? And when you look at the funding for AI and machine learning, right, companies reached about 30.8 billion in just Q2 in terms of growth, in terms of deal growth. So that is a 33% growth year on year. That or quarter on quarter, sorry, right? That we saw as part of this growth in investment in funding, right? And there's a whole rise of vertical apps, and these are tools that, when you look at how people are building now, they're not just building for solving problems, they're building for, servicing in, and that's one of the big things. And again, the stages, and if you guys have gone through some sort of funding, you start seeing the stages move earlier and earlier because of the adoption of the a lot of our partners that we work with. I mean, we work with a legal company that did contract management and utilized AI as an example. And over the last year, they've seen an investment growth, they've seen a customer growth because of how the tool has helped businesses basically understand their contracts, right? And that's a simple example of what we're starting to see when startups start thinking about something different. Now, we do know that there are challenges that keep startups from competing and growing, right? And the one thing that is one of the biggest start blockers, I would say, has been that they've been limited access to AI. A lot of founders are very interested in building AI tools. They're very interested in making sure that they infuse AI into their applications so that they can help their customers be more efficient and more successful, right? So that's one of the big challenge Another thing is the visibility and trust with customers. Being a startup, it's very difficult for you to actually look at acquiring new customers, especially if you're new, because there is a trust issue with customers. Customers don't know, you don't have a track record, you haven't really, sped up your product to a point where it's been used in the market. You don't have referenceability, um, and that's a big issue with a lot of startups, right? Runaway management. It is very easy for your cost to go up as a startup. I mean, we're having worked with startups for about 9 years now. I've seen some come and go, and you want to build the best application possible. You don't want to do customer acquisition efforts until you maybe finish your perfect product. But again, the product will never be complete. So it's also that bit that is also hindering a lot of SMEs and startups, right? And then obviously the lack of technical support. Half the time, know how to build a solution. If you're a tech startup, if you're in the tech industry, you know what to build, what you think you can build, but then you run into roadblocks when something happens from a technical perspective. It might be that, you don't have enough or sufficient understanding of certain elements when you're building out. So these are some of the challenges that we've noticed a lot of startups having, and it's very difficult for startups to go through that process and say, hey, I'm very happy, to grow very easily. My tech startup journey is very easy. It's never that easy, and some of these challenges make it even harder. Now, for a startup to start looking at, how do I infuse AI? What do I need to look at? How do I grow? What do I need to understand? We like saying that building an AI stack or building any solution in general is like building a house, right? There's always a foundation, and then there's always the bricks on top of that. And then there's always the nice things that you do, like having doors, windows, decorating the house with everything else internally. So if you look at AI applications, there's always a look at, how do I work from the bottom up? What do I need to look at? How do I build my models? Do I need to do them myself? Do I need to train it myself? So the foundational layer is really the part where all the tools that you need for your solution to actually work, foundational part of it, sit, right? And the tooling is more, now I've got the basic architecture and the structure of the solution. How do I then really make sure that when it's deployed correctly, it's secure, there's no risk of anything happening and all of that. And then obviously the AI applications on top of that, because now you're starting to focus on, okay, now I'm building a point of sale system that utilizes AI to do one, two, three, right? Maybe to identify how many customers are coming in at a specific time, give those insights, send out certain notifications to customers about specials, those type of learnings. That's where the AI application, the generative AI element of it starts sitting in. So essentially what we're starting to see is that a lot of AI, especially a lot of startups, and making sure that they mind
That
the
would
solutions
be
that they're trying to build.
the pricing,
Okay.
the modules that the
As
client requested,
I see
is
somebody's
together
off
with
mute.
me drafting the SLA. I would then also um,
Hello.
basically see
Sorry,
if we have a draft.
colleagues, can we please, oh dear. Uh, colleagues, can we please mute our mic?
There we go.
Leseko? Okay.
All right. So thank you so much. So again, I'm gonna speak about the benefits and the programs that we have, right? But what we need to look at, so what we need to look at, I mean, is essentially well, Microsoft Azure has an AI studio, right? The AI studio is basically, every toolbox that you would need to build out every AI element of your solution, whether you want to do speech, meaning you want to do a speech to text or text to speech type of engagement or solution with your application, that is already embedded within this AI studio. There's also modeling. There's GPT-4, there's GPT 3.5 that helps you with your generative AI and learnings. We've got DALL-E and a whole lot of other tools that you can utilize there and you can learn from. In fact, and I'll take you through the program itself, you'll start seeing that there's places where you can even learn as a tech startup. Some of the keywords and some of the solutions and application layers that we have, what we have in our AI infrastructure, what we have in our machine learning infrastructure, etc. So the reason why a lot of tech startups really go with Microsoft, all right, when they start building out their tech solution, when they start looking at upgrading or modernizing their tech solution, is that we've got a very comprehensive selection of AI models. And as you saw in the previous slide, there's so many that you don't have to utilize all of them. It's built for use for whatever you want to do, right? And we have the perfect tech support from that perspective to help you understand how to utilize some of these and examples. And we've got solutions like GitHub Copilot, which will help you with your coding as well. So you can actually utilize it to actually check your code to make sure that it's correct if you are a tech startup, right? And then commitment and trust and transparency. Obviously, we work with a lot of customers, and a lot of our customers trust Microsoft to make sure that, one, their business runs, because a lot of our solutions that they're using, a lot of our partners they partner with, and a lot of the ISVs, which is a tech startup in our space, right, an independent software vendor, really utilize our tools to ensure that customers are secure, because we understand the threat of cyber security on that side. They also want to make sure that they have full visibility, insights, and all our tools allow them to do that. And by utilizing those tools to build your solutions, we are able to actually take you to market as well. Then obviously we have a very robust go-to-market support. We work with a lot of startups. We help them go to market. We work with them in selling them into customers. We basically position their solutions as part of a go-to-market strategy with customers, because we've got constructs and commitments with customers where they need to basically utilize Azure. And in order to do that, we help them with the procurement process. And I'll speak about that when I speak about marketplace. So again, when you're building with Microsoft, right, it means that you become innovative, you're agile, cost effective, and secure, as I mentioned before. Because now you're starting to see the tools, you are able to utilize AI to start thinking out of the box in terms of how to build. And again, a lot of people don't understand that AI is actually just a tool, right? A good example was made at our conference a couple of weeks ago, where, you know, not using AI is like an engineer or, you know, a handyman not using a hammer, right? The hammer is the tool. So is AI, and it's supposed to make you more productive so that you can get to your point quicker. So essentially, it helps you with everything that we have. The agility, for instance, again, we do have an accommodation for open source platforms, and we support all languages and frameworks exactly. So you are able to not, you don't have to learn a specific language so that you can code in that language. You can basically utilize any language. And again, we've got cost efficient tools, etc. Now, to the crux of it all, what is Microsoft for startups, right? Again, this is a very important program if you're a tech startup, and I would encourage you to join this program, because I've seen so many people utilize this program to build out solutions. It is really a program aimed at startups. It's aimed at you at any level. And again, we look at it from an idea perspective. If you have an idea, you can Microsoft for startups. So you have an idea to build a point of sale system, as Alicia mentioned, and you want to do something different from that. Maybe you want to do a point of sale systems for outdoor events. That's an idea. All you need to do is make sure that, one, you sign up. And then with that, you already get your free Azure credits. You already get access to the Azure tools, AI tools,
TJ?
tools as well. Now, the access to that, there's more to it. We want to ensure that we encourage you and a whole lot of things that we do as part of that program,
TJ,
right? And
TJ, sorry, can I just interrupt you, please? We lost you a bit there. Can you maybe go back to your previous slide? Colleague, sorry, I think we might have lost TJ there due to connectivity issues. Perhaps we can move on to our next speaker. We have Masia Ujabolo, who is the Senior Manager for Customer Experience at the South African Revenue Services, SARS. Masia is going to talk us through using AI as a transformative tool for automation and enhancing customer experience at SARS. Masia, can I bring you in?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Marcia Ujobolo. Just gonna switch on my video. Hope everyone can see me. Yes, so as the host mentioned, I work for SARS, South African Revenue Collections, and I'm going to speak about how TJ actually as a Microsoft team member, because Microsoft is actually one of our partners. And I think it was Alicia or Lucia earlier on mentioned how customer experience and being able to be in tune with your customers can actually help to transform your organization or your business by automating some of the processes that you utilize within your business. So it's actually quite nicely aligning in terms of what we do as an organization in trying to improve how SARS taxpayers, because we are in a unique position in that we are not necessarily a perfume selling shop where someone can come and say, I like this perfume and therefore I'm going to continuously buy from Marcia's shop. We are unique in that we are a revenue collection service, and I don't think there's anyone out there who outrightly will say, or I am going to be promoting SARS as an organization of choice, unlike as you would be promoting purchasing a dress or the experience that you had at a beauty spa for the ladies who go to a beauty spa, to then say that was a fantastic experience and therefore I'm going to promote that business. Just going to share my screen or a presentation around how do we get to where we have identified what is the need for taxpayers and be in a position to then apply those technologies, which includes AI. So a big part of what we do is as a customer experience team, understanding our mandate in that we need to always have our pulse, on the ground in terms of knowing and understanding what are some of the pain points for taxpayers. Like I said, tax paying is not necessarily something that is a nice thing. I think a lot of us would prefer not to pay tax, but it's something that is needed. So we are the voice of the taxpayer. We collate taxpayers' responses because if we understand that though it's a necessary, I would say a necessary evil, paying tax, we need to make sure that it's easy for you as a taxpayer to interact with SARS when you are meeting your obligation as a South African citizen or as a tax citizen in South Africa. So we always then engage with our customers to try and find out how easy or difficult is it for them to interact with us. In those studies, we're able to then analyze the different pain points from the touch points that you have as a taxpayer, and then we take those inputs and we try and influence the business in how we can better improve our processes. And what we normally understand about our taxpayers is whether you're a trader or you're a taxpayer. So I'll use examples. If you're a micro business, if we use the perfume store, is that for you to be to meet your tax obligations, you need to be aware that you must be registered for tax. What are the requirements for you to be tax compliant? And what are some of the laws, or what is applicable for your type of business in terms of your tax obligations? So though there's other teams that look into how we communicate that, if the taxpayers are aware of their tax obligations, they are aware of things like due dates, they are aware of when are you expected to file your tax returns. Around this period, there's a lot of communication for specifically company income tax, because a lot of companies, their financial year end is in February. So there's awareness, which is a touch point that we need to measure. So on our side, we then measure the effectiveness of the communication that goes out to taxpayers around that time. And as a business, a micro business, you then need to prepare. So there would have been stuff that you've done prior to February, your financial year end coming, for you to prepare things like your financials, your business financials. If you're using a bookkeeper who's collated all your monthly expenses so that you are ready to submit your company income tax, and you are fully registered as for the tax product, which is company income tax. But more than that, because we are in the digital era, you are registered to have access to our digital platform within SARS, and within that, there's those different touch points that the team then measures before you get to the actual submission of your tax return. So there's different touch points where we've come to understand that for a personal income taxpayer, for VAT processes, for company income tax, there's a high level end-to-end journey that the taxpayer goes through. And as I mentioned, we then go and measure the different touch points. What are some of the things around registration that might be a problem? Contact center holding time, maybe system issues, understanding of navigating the system. If one process fails, then I have to go and visit the branch. We basically measure the journey that the taxpayer goes through. And we then come to understand that because of these pain points, and maybe it can be a clarity issue, it can be access issue, like I showed in the previous slide, it can be a process issue. How do we then, from this, because if it's a clarity issue, for instance, if taxpayers want to know what is my tax reference number, you will see that coming through in the number of calls that come to the contact center, where you start seeing high volumes that are coming in to say, I just want to know what's my tax number. Or you will see it in the number of calls that are coming through where someone says, I'm struggling to submit a tax return, I can't access e-filing, or I can't seem to understand the documents that are required for me to submit my company's income tax. You start seeing it in the effect on the operation side with the number of taxpayers who come to the branch because they require assistance. And it takes away from us digitizing a lot of our processes. So we gauge the insights from taxpayers, we analyze, and then we come back and we say to the business, well, there is a lack of clarity in terms of taxpayers looking for their tax reference numbers. They don't know where to go. They don't know how to book an appointment, and they don't know how to actually file their company's return. We then compile that into a business case. The business case gets approved, where we are now saying we would like to automate some of these processes. So you'll see from the previous screen I spoke about, we've identified the pain points. We went and we spoke to business to say, this is what taxpayers are saying. And from that, we then partnered with Microsoft. In partnering with Microsoft, we were able to then identify that the latest technology that can assist, it's actually an artificial intelligence application that will be intuitive in assisting taxpayers to answer some of those questions. And I mean, it is integrated into our digital platform. The other nice thing about the SARS AI assistant is that it's guardrailed to the information that is on our website. So it's specific to the documents that are on our website. It's a learning AI assistant. So the more questions we ask the AI assistant, the more it's able to formulate much more accurate responses. It's able to guide you in terms of where you would even find the full document that would explain. So it provides the response in a summarized manner, but it also provides the full version of the document where you would go and find the relevant information. It would also provide a link to the guide if it's a process-related query. It is guardrailed in that you cannot ask it, for instance, what is my shoe size? It will probably respond in a manner that speaks to shoes from a customs declaration perspective, but not necessarily responding in a way to say my shoe size is a size 6, for instance. It would prompt you to maybe clarify your question if it doesn't understand. And as you are asking it and you are conversating with the AI assistant, it then is able to provide you with a much more accurate response based on how you prompt it. We have automated some of the top 4 questions that we receive from taxpayers. Again, this comes from the previous studies that we conduct in trying to understand what is it that taxpayers are looking for when they call our contact center, they come to our branches, or even they search the website. So one of the top 4 queries that we get are reflected when you open the AI assistant. And I just have a video that I've embedded just to show you guys how the AI assistant actually works. I'm gonna switch off the volume. So you would ask it a question. So I simply clicked on the previous slide, I simply clicked on how do I submit my tax return? And when you prompt it, it will then go in and search for information, and it would give you a response which relates to submitting a return, and it would give you the links to where you would get further information around submitting an income tax return. Then I followed up that question with, when do I submit for 2024? It would then go back into our database, and it will respond exactly when you are then able to submit a 2024 return. So it's providing you with the information. It's also providing you with the sources of where it collected the information. What we then did, because SARS is working with other technologies, like we've got the WhatsApp channel, we've got the USSD channel, we've got the e-filing channel. We are also then prompting taxpayers to utilize those existing channels to say, for further information, or if you like to utilize another channel, we've got the USSD channel, we've got the WhatsApp channel, we've got the Mobi app channel. This is a means to actually assist taxpayers in saying that the digital landscape of SARS in how we're trying to make it easier for taxpayers to interact with us is not limited to the website, but we've got these other channels that you can utilize without necessarily calling the contact center, without coming to the branch and standing in long queues. We know in some areas we have taxpayers who come from as far as 2 hours away from their place of residence, and we try really to make it simpler and introducing technologies that taxpayers are used to in actually interacting with other service providers, hence your WhatsApp, your USSD, and the Mobi app channels. So from that, really, as I mentioned earlier, the predictive analytics that comes with the AI assistance really helps in anticipating the needs of the taxpayers. And when we then provide real-time feedback, when we provide responses that satisfy taxpayers, because we are able to in real time then adjust how taxpayers want to be serviced. If in real time we are able to update our content on the website, our documents on the website, as we are introducing or as we are implementing, the different filing seasons, depending on the tax product that requires filing for that period, we are then able to enable taxpayers to self-service themselves. We're able to enable taxpayers to be much more, to not fear actually submitting a tax return, and to not fear SARS, to have a better understanding of what is required of them to meet their tax obligations. And yeah, basically that's how we use AI. But for SARS, it's more than just bringing AI. It takes the element of knowing what taxpayers want, being in a position to measure taxpayers' experience, being in a position to look at how do we then improve overall satisfaction with the different platforms that we have. How do we simplify the processes? How do we provide clarity for taxpayers when they ask, for instance, or they give us feedback to say, we don't understand tax. So how do we provide clarity? How do we make it simpler? How do we then improve so that overall taxpayers are happy with the service that we provide? Thank you so much. That is it from my side.
Marcia, thank you so much for that very informative, presentation. I think we've all learned a lot. Just one comment. I would say it's more a statement than a comment for you, where one of the participants says, I think SARS, the systems are working really well. It seems to be working quite flawlessly, to be honest. The only thing they feel, SARS should do a lot more of is to make taxpayers feel more confident about being able to do their own tax returns, because, small businesses especially are plagued by fear. And that's why they incur so much of accountancy fees. So they say that SARS should, try and do a little bit more to make taxpayers feel more comfortable and more safe doing their own returns, because your systems are already making way for that. So that's just, I think it's a statement more than any question. And yeah, that is for Marcia. We're going to move on to our next speaker, Michelle Gear. Michelle is the Chief Executive Officer of AdBot, and Michelle's going to come through and speak to us about AI marketing done right. So basically, from overwhelmed to more productive. I think my story at the beginning spoke about someone that was quite overwhelmed because she was managing all processes within her business to now using technology to be more productive as opposed to overwhelmed. So I'm very interested to hear what Michelle has to say about AI and AI marketing done right. Michelle Gear, off to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alicia. Really appreciate the opportunity to chat. And I obviously speaking about marketing is the fun part of AI, right? So I'm going to share my screen and there we go. Let's just put it on slideshow. Are you able to see my screen well enough, right?
Yes, perfectly. Thank you.
Amazing. Let's just move you guys down here so that I can have a view. Okay, great. Right. So today we're going to be talking about AI and how you might be using AI incorrectly, and how you can use AI to actually 10x your productivity. And I've broken it down into small segments, so not to be overwhelmed. My brain thinks very much in a framework structure. So hopefully by the end of this, there'll be some form of framework that you can reference and that you can speak to. But before we start, maybe by show of hands, I'm not 100% sure. Alicia, you're going to have to help me. How many of you guys are using AI at the moment? If there's a raise of hands or people kind of like just thumbs upping, or any indication would be great. Yeah, there we go. Right. So all of you are kind of like using AI. And if I had to guess, you're probably using AI to rewrite your emails in a marketing context. It's probably to write some emails for automated email responses on your product. It's also perhaps to write your social media posts or articles that you're writing on your website, even your website or product information. I'm assuming a lot of you are using AI to generate either copy or to generate images. And I'm hoping that that assumption is correct. It's based off some of our clients. So I'm hoping that that is where the majority of people are. If it's not, please note in the comments and we can kind of like veer a little bit differently from there. So writing and generating images is only a part of what AI can do within the marketing context. And what I'm essentially going to do today is talk about what are the other aspects that you can use AI. And in the same way that Alicia had the example of the skincare a customer or skincare business, where she started out with e-commerce and then eventually said, but wait a minute, if we can use it for e-commerce, we can use it for finance and we can use it for all these things. And I'm hoping that in today's session, I can show you how AI can not only be applicable to creating and writing, creating images and writing, but also on different aspects. And if you combine those aspects over time, you actually get a really, really productive kind of like sense. So if everyone's ready, let's jump into it. So within marketing, there are 5 areas where you can improve your productivity using AI. And what I've done is I've done the estimation on what I think and how it works for us. I can only speak for my own truth, how it works for us from a production perspective. And those 5 areas are plan, create, publish, optimize, and report. Those are the different phases that you go through. And for those guys who are doing their own marketing or have marketing managers doing the work for them, they would be very familiar with these 5 stages, right? So first you sit down and you plan out what you're going to do for the next year. You then create that content calendar. You create all the assets that go with it. You then push that out to the different platforms. And platforms are just becoming more and more and more and more. I mean, a couple of years ago, we only had one Twitter. Now we have so many different variations of Twitter that it's crazy. And do you post on all of them or just some of them is some of the questions that we need to ask. Optimizing and reporting for me is kind of like the critical part where AI plays a major role. because we don't have the time. And also, we're not really good at optimizing marketing. And when I say optimizing marketing, I mean looking at what you've put into place, putting in a lot of volume into that space, and then making sure that when you're looking at the reports, only the information, the content that you've put in is actually what is being paid for, and you remove all the rest. But I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that in detail. So planning, I still believe, lives within the human realm. I don't think AI has got a good understanding yet of strategy, and specifically about your business. Your business, back to front. So for AI to kind of understand what your goals are is going to be tricky. Creating content, I think, is also something where you can improve productivity. But again, you are the person who really knows your audience, who understands your audience. And it actually is within the publishing. So where you put out your content, how many times, the optimization and the reporting is where you're going to get your bang for your buck. So let's dive in and start talking about planning. As I said, humans are still really good at strategy, especially around, sorry, that's my dog, who definitely agrees with planning still sits with humans. So planning and setting out your goals, you as the business owner understands your business really well. So setting out your marketing goals is critical for the planning phase. So what do you want to do this year? Are you going to grow your business? Are you going to grow your product set? Are you going to just create awareness in a different country? All those kind of like goals has to be defined within your marketing goal set, because what it will do is it will help you understand where and what to say, and all this information that you're doing in the planning phase is going to be an asset that you add into kind of like creating and instructing your AI tool at a later stage. Right. So putting down goals, that's quite easy. Usually for smaller businesses, service businesses, it's getting leads, getting clients. And only when you get to about 100,000 rands worth of marketing spend do you start looking at awareness. So for us, in our capacity, our business, we are focused on getting customers. So the second point, when you're planning your marketing, it is really, really important to understand your customers, create your funnel, and choose your channels. And I'm going to go into this in a little bit more detail, because I do believe, again, that AI doesn't really touch these parts, because it's in your head. You know what you're talking, who you are talking to, what are the touch points that your customers are going through, and what channels work for your customers. So I'm just going to touch a little bit on that in detail before we jump into the AI part. So when I started out on this entrepreneurial journey, I actually went out and spent R250,000 on advertising. And I had a lot of things done right, especially creatively. I had a really amazing advert. I had some great content. But one of the things that I really got wrong was my customer information. And I'm telling you the story because I think this is one of the most critical parts of a marketing strategy or a marketing rollout. If you are not very clear on who your customer is, and like me back in the day said, my customer is everyone that is online, it means that you don't really know who your customer is. And when you don't really know who your customer is, you're going to speak broadly, and you're not going to be specific, and you're not going to answer somebody's need or somebody's problem. And when you're speaking broadly, you either have to have a lot of money, or you have to be more specific and tell this person that you're speaking to how your product or your service can actually solve the problem that they're facing. So I'm going to show you a little bit of details of how we actually got to our ideal customer, and just give you some tips on how to find your ideal customer. I am going into this detail because I don't think that you would get the right information or answers if you are typing into AI, who do you think my customers are? You can brainstorm with AI, but I don't think that they would have the information that you need in order to set this up. So I wanted to give you some tools on how to figure out who these guys are. Our customer that we defined when we started the business was a guy called Patrick. And I do encourage you to actually name your customer. And the reason why we say name your customer is because you start getting a picture in your head. So when you start seeing where these customers are, it's very easy for your brain to go, oh, there they are, and find the right audience for them. So our guy, Patrick, how did we get to Patrick? Did we make it up? Did we say we are going to make a product for Patrick? No, very rarely that's how it works. We started running our product, and over a period of a year, we started realizing that there was a very specific person that bought our product. And that person had a couple of overlapping identification points. So, for example, it was a store owner that also had an online presence, right? It wasn't necessarily somebody who sold lots of e-commerce online. It was somebody who sold products online, but who was valued for their service. So if we when we detailed our guy, we said our guy was like a racket specialist that sold paddle rackets. And so before you could buy a paddle racket online, you would contact him and he would kind of like look at your style and he would suggest what kind of racket is best for you to serve. So it's a very much a service business. But we looked at data that we already started getting in from customers who are purchasing from us in order to put together who that ideal customer is. Now we have a very defined person that we speak to. So when we start talking to our AI tools, we actually put that information into our AI tools, and the output from images or planning or whatever is a lot more accurate and actually a lot more impactful. So remember, garbage in, garbage out is exactly the same as how these AI tools work. And that is why I just wanted to spend a little bit of time on creating and finding who your customer is. After understanding who your customer is, so as we said, ours is Patrick. He has a store. He's a racket specialist, and that's kind of like what he sells. He's the owner who makes the decisions, etc., in a small team. So you can see how kind of like granular we got into that. After that, you start creating your funnel. Now, there's only 5 audiences within your funnel that you can speak to. So within our Patricks, there are only 5 mentalities we can speak to. A Patrick that is unaware that he has a problem. So maybe he has too much foot traffic. He's in a mall, so he doesn't really need online advertising. He's unaware that he really needs information. So Leisha's example of the skincare lady, that wasn't really aware. She wanted to kind of like stick with the real world, and she wasn't aware that she is missing out on all this online traffic that she could get. And I think that that's when she started moving from unaware to problem aware. The fact that problem aware is when your customer is aware that they have a problem, but they're not really sure that there is a solution out there. We also have solution aware. So somebody who's aware of the problem that they have, they know that there's a solution out there, but they're not really sure who the solution is to turn to. And they might know some of your competitors. Product aware is somebody who actually knows that there is a specific product that answers there. They might or might not know that you're around. Most aware is for people that know about your product that is out there. And when you speak to them, they'll know. So you can see that if you have a Patrick that knows about your product, which is in the lower end of the funnel, and you speak to those guys, the chances of them purchasing your product is really, really high. I'm not going to go into much detail. What I just want to say here is that when you are putting together your prompts for your AI, it is really important to understand and put in all the detail around your Patrick, your ideal customer, and tell them this customer is aware that they have a problem. They're aware that there are solutions, maybe solutions outside or competitors of ours, but they're not aware of our product necessarily. And all that information together is going to give you the better solution. Then after that, you start choosing your channels. And I just wanted to give you some information on data that we've collected over the last year. If you're a business starting out and you're spending less than 100,000 Rand on media, our advice would be to spend on Google Ads and SEO if you're in the service businesses, plumber, electrician, or a B2B service businesses, anyone that is selling Microsoft services or implementation of specific builds for businesses. And then if you're a product business, what we have found works really well is Facebook ads as well as Google ads. And the split there is Google ads 60%, Facebook ads 30%. So when I say 40%, so when I say 60-40%, I'm talking about the budget split. So spend 60% of your money on Google ads, and that's search ads specifically, and the rest on Facebook ads. So you kind of like create a little bit of a relationship between those two, and that's what works really well. Right. So that is planning your marketing for the year. You have to do a little bit of work up front because then the rest becomes really easy. Create, we spoke about that a little bit earlier. This is where most of you understand how AI works within marketing. AI can brainstorm, AI can write a content plan, AI can write the content for the content plan, and AI can create the images to use for the content plan. And I've actually done this exercise myself in the beginning of the year. And AI had helped me brainstorm what are the things that we're going to do, and then kind of like put together all the ideas that we're going to work on, and then eventually starts writing either the article, the Facebook post, etc. Now you can imagine if you are prompting AI to say, let's brainstorm some marketing ideas for 2025. I have a business that's a plumbing business, and I want to make sure that I get customers, not just the emergency, but for maintenance on their bathrooms or piping, whatever. What you would then do is if you add in my customer is somebody that is in Claremont, it's a single female that isn't really that familiar with DIY tools. And she is not aware that maintenance is necessary on plumbing, for example. If you put all of that information in, you can see then as the content plan comes back, it will have a lot more detailed information specifically related to your customer. So most of you know how to use this part of AI, so I'm not going to hammer down into this, but it does make you when I did the exercise in the beginning of the year, it took us 2 days instead of what would take us 4 weeks in order to put a content plan together with all the content surrounding it. So it's really efficient and can speed up your time by quite a bit. I have a little kind of step-by-step instruction of what to maybe just make sure that you're doing when you instructing AI. Happy to share the presentation afterwards, but I'm not going to go into details. All right. So once you've done your planning, you've created your assets using AI tools like Midjourney, like even Meta on WhatsApp, as well as ChatGPT for your writing. You can also use Meta for that, or Claude, or any of those tools are really, really helpful. Once all of that is created, you want to get the word out there. So you want to publish it, right? And remember, in the planning section, we spoke about the different channels. There are multiple different channels. Let's talk about Facebook, Instagram, X, Blue Sky, TikTok. There's so many different ones out there. And it's really quite important that you focus on which ones are the best for you to use. How do you decide which one's the best for you to use? You look at where your customers are hanging out. If most of your customers are hanging out in TikTok, it's not worth starting to publish on Blue Sky, for example. So make sure that you actually also know where your customers are hanging out, and then publishing. So some notes on AI publishing. I wanted to raise the stat, which I thought was absolutely fascinating. For top content creators at the moment, like Mel Robbins or Diary of a CEO, I'm not sure some of you might know these guys. But they release 70 pieces of content every single week. 70 pieces of content. Imagine that. If that was you, you would never get to logistics, customer service. You would never get to anything. You'd just be making content all the time. And that's not just making it. Remember, once you've made it, you have to publish it. So you have to log into Facebook and put it onto the Facebook platform, and you have to log into certain places or LinkedIn, publish your article. What the publishing AI pieces allow you to do is to actually publish your content without you having to physically do that. So you spend a bit of time scheduling in all your posts and all your articles. Most social media sites have got a built-in scheduler, which you can use. But you can also use something called William. William is a AI publishing tool. And what it does is it will automatically publish to your different platforms as you instruct it. So you set everything up in the beginning, and William will sort it out. Will sort out the rest. And all you have to do is just go in and see who's responding to what. And you can post as many or as little as you need to. What I do want to say about publishing is that publishing is a numbers game, right? So the more pieces of content you get out there, the more people will know about you, the less you're going to spend on actual paid advertising, and the more people are going to come to you for a solution. Also think about like publishing in places where AI is getting information from, for example, Reddit. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Curo, and blogs and websites, etc. So anything that the web is kind of using in order to inform AI, make sure your content is there, because that's the information that it's going to start using when it's giving answers to customers. So publishing, you can imagine if you are capable of only publishing 5 pieces of content a week that you can fit in at night after your whole day of work, being able to use AI to publish 70 pieces, you can see that 10x exposure immediately. And you can start seeing that by more people kind of inquiring, more people coming to your website, more people writing your articles. So publishing, please use AI in order to do that and find out about products like William or others that is going to help you do that. Okay, my favorite section of AI is optimize. The reason why, yes.
Are you able to maybe wrap up on this one, because we are slightly out of time?
Sure, of course, no problem.
Thank you so much.
Sure. So in Optimize, we have Optimize is my favorite one. So in Optimize, we use tools like, for example, AdBot, which helps you optimize your Google Ads. And there's various other tools that help you optimize all sorts of different things. Just to explain exactly what Optimize is, if you were running your own Google ads, if you were running your own Facebook ads, for example, you have to spend 25 hours a week in the back end, making sure that you are moving money from keywords that aren't working to keywords that are working. You also need to, on a Facebook perspective, you need to load about 40 ads and then reduce those ads based on performance in order to get the right one. Now, you can imagine 25 hours a week is a lot of time to just spend on going through and making sure that things are optimized. And tools like, for example, AdBot does all that work for you so that you can just focus on growing your business. The same with Facebook. If you can actually have a tool which puts the most important front and center, manages your budget, you don't have to do that, and you can just focus on growing your business. The last one is reporting. And the only thing that I'll say on reporting, and that would be me, is there is a product called Ask SQL. And I think it's one of the most amazing tools out there. And you can connect it to your finance database or your customer database or any database, and you can start asking it questions. For example, if we've connected it to our customer database, and at any time, anyone who has access, so our investors or anyone, can actually ask a question to the database. For example, how many clients did we get this week? How many invoices are outstanding to be paid? What is our income for the last 6 months? All of those questions, Ask SQL will get back to you in a matter of seconds. So yeah, I think that's it. 5 areas to 10x your productivity: planning, creating, publishing, optimizing, and reporting are the ones to focus on in order to create more content, more effective content over a bigger space. And that's it.
Michelle, thank you so much for that very informative presentation. You've given us so much information and we are really appreciative. I see that in the chat box, there are a lot of requests for the presentation. So if you are able to share that with us, we'll share with the participants. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Will do. I'll send it straight after.
Sure, thank you. Colleagues, we have our next speaker, Nkosinathi Mbele, who is the founder of AdNodes. And Nkosinathi will take us through all things internet, Wi-Fi, and everything that really, we take for granted, but is an absolute necessity on a day-to-day basis. Nkosinathi, over to you.
Thank you so much, Alicia, and greeting to the panelists as well as our distinguished guest. So let me also try and project before you get the whole. Let me see if, please confirm if you can see my presentation.
Yes, we are able to see it. Thank you.
All right. Yes, so my name is Nati Mbele from AdNodes. So today I wish to connect the presentation of the previous fellow panelist and just maybe start with a few questions. Without connectivity, do you think you can leverage AI? And also, without affordable connectivity, we cannot assist our business to operate efficiently and become productivity. So AdNodes is licensed by ICASA to assist South African get connected affordably. So one of the things that I always wish to highlight at the beginning of my presentation is the fact that broadband impacts all sectors of our economy, and achieving most of our SGDs, so we need connectivity, and connectivity can accelerate the achievement of these some of the SGDs. However, what we are seeing in South Africa, majority of the population is under the coverage. So there are form of infrastructure, there are form of connectivities that can assist our population to be productively. However, the cost of getting connected and staying connected the whole time is also super increasing. So we have identified 4 issues that we believe are the biggest drivers of the digital divide. One of them being the infrastructure that is available in our communities. Most of those infrastructures, I'm sure you can realize, those big towers that are being erected or maintained, they're pretty expensive. But also the issue of where the content that is being consumed by our population is located. That is one of the biggest contributors of the cost of getting connected. But also we've noticed that the type of areas where we are located, if you are located in the rural areas versus in the urban areas, you will definitely pay differently. For example, you may buy 1 gig of data, which is valid for a day in the rural areas, but you may not end up using that data if one of the tower in that area decide to go offline because of various issues, load shedding being one of them, but also vandalism that is taking place in those areas. We're also noticing the content understanding on what to do online. I believe that there's still a room of teaching our population how to effectively use the internet. Majority of our population, we spend time on activities that are not assisting us to be economically efficiently. I'm not criticizing social media, but it's about what do you do when you're online. If I only go online to upload my pictures, the cost of uploading those pictures where I'm not running a business, maybe being a photographer or like Michelle doing marketing, advertising. So how we use our platform also contribute to the cost, but also the availability of affordable devices is one of the contributing factors. There are devices that are good to have, but you may not be able to work online with them, upload the content. And the reality is devices that can assist us, they are so expensive. So with EdNote, we also look at the number of devices available in South Africa. In this case, we have over 120 million mobile devices, and we are seeing a rise on IoT device. Mind you, we have a population of about 62 million people. We reside within 257 municipalities. But all these devices is another indication that it's possible. So the issue of devices is being addressed. Most of us, we carry 2 or more devices, whether a laptop, a desktop, plus a mobile phone. However, to effectively use these tools, we need connectivity. So in addressing these 4 challenges, because if we do not address these challenges, some of the population will be excluded to these digital economy opportunities that's presented by AI or 4AR in that matter. So we decided to do a thorough research in terms of which part of the population is least connected. We realized that rural communities and township, they fall behind from this engagement, which means they are excluded. The Microsoft
Felix, I do apologize for that. We and Kosinati is having some issues, connectivity issues on his side, and is battling to get back. There's some challenges with the network. I think just because of time, I'd like to move on. So our next and final speaker is our CEO of Proudly South African, Eustace Mashembe. Can I hand over to you, CEO?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
You.
Thank you, Alicia. Thank you. Good morning to everyone who has joined us this morning. I meant to be the final speaker, but I think we might get Nkosinathi back after this. So I was meant to sort of, try give a final, presentation that gives a summary of everything that has happened. But what I'll do is I'll focus rather on what Proudly South African is about, especially in this space, this technology space that we're talking about today. I mean, the topic for this webinar was how do you boost your business with the latest tech trends and exciting new opportunities. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you what we are doing as Proudly South African to ensure that we give value to those that affiliate with us. And as a buy local campaign, the role of Proudly South African is to have entrepreneurs like the one you see on screen who have started a business with the sole intent of either providing a service or providing a product of some sort. And as you buy from them, they will have big smiles like that, because then they can retain the jobs they've created. But most importantly, they can create new job opportunities as more and more of us buy from them. And so what does localization mean, and what does it do? What are the benefits of having people buy local? One, it helps with the retention of jobs. Like I said, with the previous entrepreneur, we have 2 more entrepreneurs that you can see. They've opened their business. They're happy because people are going to come in and take up what it is that they are taking to the market by way of their offering. So it helps to retain jobs and create jobs. But in a country where the vast majority who are unemployed are young and Black African women in the main, so SMMEs especially, are in a position to can employ those who are marginalized, and in the process they acquire skills where localization helps with developing the economy and improving the standard of living of those who run the businesses and make a success of it, as well as those who are employed in those businesses. It also helps to create an increased tax base. Then there's more of us paying taxes, so it gives government an opportunity to can render better services to all of us. So there are great benefits to localization. There is a study that we did through an independent body, the Pan-African Investment and Research Services, and basically talks to why buying local is important. And we used manufacturing, and I know today we're talking about technology, but I'll show you how we utilize technology. But as part of giving you a backstory as to why we exist and why we do what we do, and why it's important that you support us as business people and as consumers, is that the country has high levels of unemployment. One of the sectors that can absorb as many people as possible is manufacturing, because manufacturing is labor intensive in nature, but also manufacturing, because of how it is, it has a multiplier effect. So if you buy, for example, a furniture item, you are not only supporting the furniture making entrepreneur or business, but you're also supporting those who are part of the ecosystem, those who are part of the value chain that supply the raw materials and the steel components and the textile and leather items, and the hides and skins from the agricultural industry, which are then converted into textile and leather and in turn utilized by the furniture manufacturers, those who supply adhesives and paints that are utilized to make furniture. So you see, I've touched on many industries just with one industry being supported, which is furniture, which is part of the broader manufacturing. And so the study we did was to look at what the impact would be if you would support a locally made product. And so with Proudly South African being a buy local campaign, the focus has then, been on, get services supported, get labor intensive sectors supported. And the study points to the fact that just with a 10% increase in investment or buying that which is made in South Africa, you are able to, get 10% increase, a 13% increase in the contribution to the GDP, 9% increase in fiscal revenue, 75,300 new jobs created in manufacturing. 11,000 of those are part of the value chain that I spoke about in mining and agriculture, which supply raw materials and components, 11,000 in mining, 10,000 in agriculture. And overall, there's an 8% increase in employment creation, just with 10% increased support for locally made products. And then imagine what it would be if you had 20% more and 30% more bought in South Africa. So our mandate is quite simple. If there's anyone making a purchasing decision out there, we need to get them to buy local. We focus on 4 areas. What is government buying in the public sector? How are they buying it? Can we utilize technology to help them? What technology are they utilizing? And I'll touch on that quickly in a few minutes. The private sector as well. What is bought by the private sector? By the private sector, we don't just mean only big business, but middle, mid-sized businesses, smaller businesses. All of us have a role to play because what we buy has an impact on the economy. If what we're buying comes from China, we're empowering the economy in China. And the same applies to the third focus area, which is the role of Policy African is to educate consumers on the importance of buying local, educate the general public on what the impact of their purchasing decisions is. We all know someone who's unemployed. What are we doing to contribute to ensuring that they do get some sort of employment? Lastly, which is where we utilize technology a lot as Policy African, and I'll show you what we do in that space, is to promote accessibility of locally made products and services. So those who want to buy local, whether they sit in the public sector, in the private sector, or even if they are ordinary consumers, what is it that they are doing, or how can they access those products, if they want to buy local and they want to heed our call for them to support the buying of locally made products. All of us have probably seen the Proudly SA logo at some point. I know there are some members on the call, but there are lots of you who are not members of Proudly SA. So I did not want to assume that you understand the campaign. And I think this slide will also help give you a sense of who we are and who we represent. So we represent companies who comply with 4 key criteria. In order to become a member, you have to, go through a vetting process. And once you are satisfied that you tick all of the 4 boxes that you see on the screen, you become a member. The first one quickly is local content, meaning that the product itself must be made in South Africa. And the local content speaks to the raw materials and the components that you utilize to provide the product or render the service. So if you are rendering a service, where are the equipment and consumables that you're utilizing sourced from? Those things that you utilize to render the service. If you're making a product, where's the raw material coming from? Let's go back to my furniture example. You source your metal parts and your steel and your leather and your textile and your adhesives and everything else in South Africa. There are instances where we know the country might not have what you might require as an entrepreneur. And so we do allow for some things to come in, but at least 50% of the cost of producing the product or rendering the service must be sought in South Africa. If it's a product, the value addition of converting the product into the final item that goes into the market must be sourced in South Africa so that jobs are created. So it's about value addition for us. Secondly, quality. The tick in the logo tells you instantly as a consumer that you're about to acquire services or get serviced by someone who will give you, and render high quality services, or the product itself that you're about to buy is of high quality nature, complying with whatever standards are prescribed in that industry. The third one is companies that affiliate with us have to ensure that they help us preserve the environment in some way, and that they recycle where possible, they dispose of waste responsibly, they just deploy sound environmental practices in their businesses, including recycling and ensuring that they preserve the environment. Lastly, companies that affiliate with us have to ensure that in the course of doing business and in the course of employing people, they comply with the labor legislation of the country and that they treat their workers fairly and as prescribed by our government. I want to quickly play a video which sort of summarizes, what I spoke about in terms of what the campaign seeks to achieve, what we're about. And then I'll quickly, my second part of my presentation, which will be very short, is about how do we then utilize technology as Policy African to help us achieve what we need to achieve.
The second half is about to begin. We need to change the scoreboard. It's time for all of us to pause and rethink the game plan in order to save the future. I call on all of us to be game changers because greatness isn't reserved only for some people. By buying local, we're choosing to create jobs and sustain the ones we have. Time and time again, South Africans have taken destiny into their own hands, creating products that the rest of the world wanted to buy. See, the world remembers about us what we sometimes forget. But it's time for change. Let's all buy local. It's game time. Zanzi.
Local is lekker.
Your everyday decisions shape our future.
And that's how we educate consumers on the importance of them buying local. So if you think of the business support ecosystem, entrepreneurs and business people want support and want access to all of these things, whether it's information, whether it's funding, whether it's ways in which they can protect their ideas and their IP and trademarks, whether it's how they can be assisted to comply with statutory obligations, including tax obligations, how they can improve the efficiencies and productivity in the institutes and organizations that do that. But the most important thing that any business person wants is access to markets. And that's where I started with all of those entrepreneurs. We're happy that people were walking through the doors of their businesses. And so as Pride South Africa, our responsibility is to ensure that if there's a business that ticks all our boxes, they make the product locally is of a high quality nature, whether they're an existing business, whether they are a new entrant, whether they're an existing business with a new product that they're bringing to the market, or even as a transformed entity to a Black-owned business, we provide them with opportunities to then access the markets they want. It's about recapturing the share of the market that has been lost to imports. And so we utilize technology in a big way to do that. We use digital platforms. One of the ways in which we do that is through portals. During the COVID-19 pandemic period, we then introduced portals. Everyone was buying masks and sanitizers and detergents and face shields, and a lot of medical PPE was bought by both the public sector and the private sector. But what we saw is that a lot of these things were coming from outside of the country. And so what we did is then we created portals, non-transactional portals, but it had details, including the capacity of the company that you're buying from, what product they're supplying you, where they're located. So if you are a hospital sitting in Etinaga, U10H, and you want to buy that product, medical PPE, you would know that this is the company that is located within my province or in my town. This is the capacity they have, and we then also loaded the accreditation to show you that the product you're about to buy, is locally made. And the portals really did, great work in terms of ensuring that, one, we were self-sufficient as a country, and we did not have problems, especially because a lot of the borders of our traditional sources of supply were also closed during that time. So, those were able to bring in products from China, etc., were dominating the market until we introduced the portals. And a lot of South Africans, especially because we had a partnership with the unions as well as Business for South Africa, started buying locally made medical PPE, cloth face masks, and sanitizers, etc. And a lot of the businesses, even those clothing and textile entrepreneurs, for example, who had repurposed their business and started, making masks, benefited. Those who sell other forms of detergents, who then started making hand sanitizers and detergents and disinfectants that could be utilized during that time, benefited. Those who, were supplying some sort of latex product were then in a position to then repurpose and start making sterile gloves and latex gloves. So we had a lot of businesses that were new in this space and did not know how to access the opportunities. And so we created the portals, and this is how the medical PPE portal looks. We are continuing that space. There is space for us to create more portals. We've done it with the furniture industry. We've created a portal for furniture suppliers, where those who are affiliated with us who make furniture could sit on that portal. We are continuing conversations with a lot of industries to see which industry needs portals. We've had one for baby wear. We've had one for adult wear. So we've done a lot of work in that space in terms of creating portals. What we've done is, when you reimagine retail in South Africa, the honest truth is that online retail, sales have now passed 6% of total retail in South Africa. That was at 2023. And if you look at the study done by Worldwide, it shows that the significant growth in online shopping center, and it is 71 billion in 2023, and we estimate that it will break the 100 billion rands mark by 2026. That's only in South Africa. So all of those sales, are happening as a result of us as consumers buying from all of those online platforms, and so we have to take advantage of that space. And so we need to utilize localization to leverage this digital space in order to ensure that, even in that space where people are buying on online platforms, we are able to drive economic growth and create jobs. So what we've done is we've partnered with all of these third-party online stores. We don't own any of these. These are owned by other people. We conclude partnerships for them to list member products. So as a member of Paris of Ken, you can sell all your products on these platforms. It gives you an opportunity to be found by those who shop online. The product will have the logo next to your product. This is how it looks on Take a Lot when you go there and you find a product that is made by a Paris South African product. That's the product at the top is one made by our member. And it easily tells the consumer that this product is made in South Africa. This is how it looks on one day only. This is how it looks on, when they run the specials, they run daily specials. So every time they're running a special on proudly South African products or made in South Africa products that are vetted by us, it will have that logo. This is how it looks on Zulzi. These are the products that have the logo just on top of the product. It tells you as a consumer instantly that you are buying a product that is locally made by artisans. Also do the same with the products that are made in South Africa. BizMed, which is a B2B platform, also has these products, and they target hospitals and clinics and healthcare facilities that have significant procurement spend. So you can imagine the size of the orders that are then directed to local producers as a result of the partnership we have with them, where they list proudly SA products. This is how it looks on Micro Marketplace. This is how it looks on Loot, on Bob Shop is the same. And what we are doing over and above the partnerships we've concluded with all of these third-party online stores is we're launching our own e-commerce shop at the end of this month. What it's going to do is to create a central place where anyone sitting anywhere in the world who wants to buy a product made in South Africa, vetted by Proudly South Africa, knows where to find the product. And so we're excited. It's going to live on our website, but also it will have an app that people can download, across all, whether it's on Android or on iOS, you'll be able to download it and transact on it. We also have a non-transactional portal called Market Access Platform. This is also for business-to-business purposes, where members of Proudly South Africa who register with us and go to a vetting process are placed on a portal. And if you go back to the example that I gave with hospitals and clinics, with the hospital buyer knows that if they go onto this portal known as MAP, they will then find a supplier that can supply them with the product they want, whether it's a medical device, pharmaceutical product, a bed, linen, whatever it is they want to buy. And we're going to have, at least at this point in time, 26 different sectors represented on MAP, supplying all types of products. So a buyer sitting in any corporate who wants to buy local can register on MAP and utilize it in the same way that government utilizes the central supply database to find suppliers. They will utilize this to find suppliers. What we're doing in the public sector space is we're migrating our database with the CSD. So government has the CSD housing all of those companies that are compliant with what government is looking for. What we are bringing to that database is companies that supply locally made products to ensure that government can easily, find and buy from local producers. But over and above that, if you are a company that affiliates with us and you want to do business with government, we just migrate your data to the CSD. And if you are on the CSD and you want to be a member of Proudly South Africa, then your data can be pushed to us so that it reduces, the burden of you registering with the CSD as well as with us, as the two systems can talk to each other. The question that I'm preempting, program director, is that people might ask, how much does it cost to become a member so that you can benefit from this access to market platforms that I've spoken about? And these are just the technology-based ones. We have a lot of the non-technology-based solutions, but because the conversation today is about helping people boost their businesses, utilizing technology as well as digital innovations, we have many more physical access to market opportunities where we take companies to markets at no cost to them. We buy space at expos for our members. If there's a company that, for example, is in the furniture space, we'll take you to the Homemakers Expo, to Decorex, depending on where we've sourced space. And it's always first come, first serve. We have our own event, the Buy Local Summit and Expo. Please go to our website, register for that expo so that you can come and interact with all of these service providers that I've touched on who are in the digital space, who are part of the Proudly South African ecosystem. So the question might be, how do I benefit from this as an entrepreneur? Over and above the vetting, is there a cost? Yes, there is a cost. It's not expensive. Once per annum, you pay us, and you benefit from all our offerings. The cheapest and the entry level is 500 rands, and that is for companies with a turnover less than 5 million rands. The most expensive or the highest, that any company that wants to affiliate with us can pay is 100,000 rands, and this is if your turnover is 100 million rands and more. This is per annum, so it's really not.
Colleagues, I'm so sorry. We seem to be, it's how apt is it that we're talking about tech, and every one of us seem to be having connectivity issues today. I do apologize for that. I think just on our side, to wrap up what our CEO has been saying is that, we have the Buy Local Summit and Expo happening next month, the 17th and 18th of March. We would like to see everyone that's on the call visit the expo or exhibit at the expo, purely because that is our greatest access to market platform. And I think it will be highly beneficial to all members. And even if you're not a member, to be able to come through and have a look at what happens in those 2 days, to be able to appreciate, the impact of a Proudly SA exhibition and summit, and the various stakeholders that are part of the summit, both internally and externally. Before we close, I would like to call in Nkosinathi back just to sum up what he was trying to say, and then maybe to take some questions that are directly aligned to Nkosinathi. Nkosinathi, can I bring you back, please?
Thank you. Yeah, I'll try to wrap up in 5
Thank
minutes.
you.
All right. Yes. So we have worked with CSIR in commercializing one of the database which has put together available spectrum which is currently underutilized. So through this database, we are able to identify the spectrum per area and deploy infrastructure that is driven by TV space spectrum, which enable us to offer affordable solution for businesses, for the mass market. Currently, we are operating in 5 provinces where we've deployed this infrastructure. but we have a reach across the country through partner network as well. So let me see. Yeah. But also we've been participating in South African government intervention in terms of connecting the unconnected. Currently, our contribution within the SA Connect project is purely on targeting the household. So on the broadband access fund, we are able to contribute close to 7,000 households, which were not connected. By now, they've got infrastructure. They are connected. They're able to utilize the services online. We've also built public Wi-Fi hotspot, close to 1,000 rand out of 3,000 that were targeted. At the moment, we are now assisting the second phase of SA Connect. Our target is also to deliver 100 Wi-Fi hotspots in areas that previously had no services. So one of the greatest impacts that we made in KZN during floods, you might have maybe read online, 500 base station of MTN, about 400 of Vodacom were unfortunately affected by floods. So with our local presence, because we are also in KZN, our network was able to support municipalities with recovery effort to make sure that businesses, even during floods, were able to operate, were able to, even the issue of reaching people who needed help, reaching people who needed medicine, who needed to keep their communication going. We play a huge role in KZN during those floods around 22. So just on a nutshell, if you look at our services, all our services, we are able to reach 5 provinces through our own network. Currently, our network is covering just over 3 million through our own infrastructure as well as partner network. Some of the services are put there just to have a look. But our key message, we are partnering with various organizations that have identified need within the areas they support. Like at the moment, I'm in Sekhukhune, where we're working with Kagiso Trust to connect several schools which they support, because they identify that to deliver education to these schools, they need connectivities. So we would like to partner with anyone who have similar interest. I realize that as a member of Proud SA, I will also need to intervene to make sure that we are all connected the whole time online. Thank you so much.
And Kosanati, thank you so much for that. I think this is amazing. Everyone on the call would like for you to share your presentation, please. I think, in between us losing connectivity and the presentation, perhaps we must have missed something. But if you could share that, I'd like to share it with everyone on the call. I think there's some very valuable information there. I thought also very important, for me to communicate is that what our CEO said is that manufacturing is not an isolated process. It's not just a single company producing a product, but rather involves a complex network of interconnected entities, that like suppliers, distributors, technology providers, other service providers, and even regulatory bodies that all come together to create a finished product. And so, keeping with technology, I think we need to acknowledge the importance of technology in the whole manufacturing process, and the importance of technology in every other sector that drives localization or drives the economy in South Africa. Before we wrap up, if I could have any questions. I know there's some questions in the chat box, but I have answered them. I'm not sure if there's any questions for any of our speakers that you'd like to add to the chat box, or even ask while our speakers are still on the line. I'm not sure if TJ is still on the call. If not, maybe Nkosinathi can answer this. One of the questions being, security is the most important. I feel like we've gone very far in talking about AI and all the things that can simplify business. But what about security? We never talk enough about internet security, and that is something that is plaguing small businesses. TJ or Nkosinathi, can you maybe answer that one?
Okay. Thank you, Alicia. I think that's a good question, something that we must be aware of. So during my presentation that I'm going to share is around, we need to be aware, our service provider, where are they hosting our content? That's the first step in trying to manage the risk. But also, ICASA has some information where you can verify if indeed the service provider is registered with ICASA, as well as certified by FPB to offer services. So some of those tick boxes before you procure a service is critical, that you need to double check all that information. However, one of the, in our businesses, what we've done, we've got presence in the largest data center in South Africa, being Terraco, in Johannesburg, as well as we've got presence in Durban, where some of our customers whom we are hosting some of the important information, they have access to come and see even our servers, to come and interact with our team at the office. So building a relationship with the service provider who's handling your critical infrastructure is the key, but also checking with all the regulators if that person is authorized to deliver those services. So that I'll contribute just those two key points, which I believe will assist in addressing the security matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Nkosinathi. The next question is for Marcia. The question is, you are updating your systems and it is working very well. Can you speak about security for SARS? I'm not too sure, maybe how secure the systems, possibly the question is asking how secure the systems are for our, company data.
So I'm not sure if I understand the question. How secure is the company data within SARS system?
Marcia, yes, that's correct. So one of the participants says, how safe is our data, our company data on your system?
So there's two things that taxpayers need to note in that. Remember, company data sits with SIPs. On our side, it's actually the declaration, the self-declaration that the company submits on income and expenses for that particular company. And we use secured systems. Even on e-filing, your logins are secured for as long as you don't share it with third-party data or third-party sources. If you're going to utilize professional services, you must utilize the services of a registered tax practitioner. There are some taxpayers who have a tendency of using tax preparers who are not recognized as registered tax practitioners. So the processing and the storage of that data is secured within our systems, but the onus again is on taxpayers to only utilize, in the event that they want to utilize professional services, to utilize registered tax practitioners. On our website, we do have a functionality where you can go and search if the tax practitioner you are using is actually registered and recognized by SARS. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you so much for that answer. I think that will suffice. The two last questions, the one I will take And the other one is for Michelle. Michelle, do you offer what you presented, is that part of your service offering?
So it is not, but we do spend time with small businesses, and we take them through strategy and whatever it is that they need. We do have a done for you service, which is I think it's 2,200 Rand, and you get a dedicated person like an agency who will look after your services. But yeah, we're more than happy to support anybody that's looking for additional information, and we can take them through the program. My contact details is in the presentation, so anyone who wants to reach out, just pop me an email.
Thank you, Michelle. The last question, I see there's one more, is why the CEO of Proudly SA didn't speak to why Proudly SA doesn't advocate for the country abroad. That is not Proudly South African's mandate. Our mandate is we are an advocacy campaign. So we are advocating for the public sector, the private sector, and the general consumer to make a local purchasing decision. Proudly SA does not advocate for South Africa abroad because that is the mandate of Brand SA. I hope that answers your question. And then the last question is, why doesn't Proudly SA, or should I say, do you do compliance testing? No, we do not do ISO certifications. We don't do product testing. That sits with, industry bodies or universities. So you can try the universities. They do product testing. And then, of course, there's SABS. They also do product testing and ISO certification. Proudly SA does not do any ISO certification, product testing, or service compliance as well. And I think that is it for the questions. I think the rest is just is basically the participants asking for the presentations. As confirmed, I will collate all of the presentations, and myself and Liseka will, if you pop us an email, we will send you the whole deck for what was presented today. I think we've come to the end of our, webinar. So I'd like to say a very big thank you to TJ Zwane from Microsoft, to Marcio Ujabolo from SARS, or South African Revenue Services, Michelle Gear, the Chief Executive Officer from AdBot, and Nkosinathi Mbele, the founder of AdNotes, as well as our CEO of Proudly South African. Thank you for making the time to offer us expert advice this morning. We really appreciate it. Our participants are eagerly awaiting the presentation. So thank you to all of our speakers, and thank you to our participants for making yourself available and for all of your questions and your interest in this subject matter. Thank you for your time. We will send out all of the presentations or the presentation decks as requested. Thank you, everybody. We've come to the end of our webinar. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.